welcome to the Up Podcast, raw real talk on everything young parenting.
From self-care, co-parenting, and family planning, to balancing school, work, relationships, and goals.
Together, we're challenging society's assumptions and building a safe and supportive community for young parents.
One honest conversation at a time. So join us on the journey.
Hey guys, welcome back to another Yup podcast. Today we are going to be talking about all things single parenting. And if I'm being truthfully honest, both myself and Brandy have some pretty unique and interesting stories, lifestyles, realities. But I say that to say we have not really planned in depth like we usually do for this conversation. So I'm not sure how left these topics and conversations will go. So this is the realest it's going to get. But as always, it's Divine.
And I'm Brandy, raw, real, and uncut. Yeah, so for today, we're going to be talking about single parenting. And that is a journey that both of us know all too well. Not only was I born to a single mom, became a single mom young, but this has been my journey for the last 13 years. So it's intense. So we just want to kind of start us off just looking at what the rap that single parents get, single parents, but specifically single moms. And it's so interesting to me that there is so much stigma around single parenting, but the stigma looks so different, right? So for single moms, there's their baby mamas or baby mama drama or, I don't know, welfare queens, all the stuff, right? Like there are so many names in the books. And then the perception is that single moms, are on, need the system or on whatever, or they're the reason why they're single or whatever it is. Whereas I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like sometimes when it's the other way around, they're like single dads are heroes or they're just looked at very differently. And so it's a very interesting perspective I think that we have. But I really just hate the idea that there's so much stigma around single parenting. I'll just start us off with this little tidbit. So I remember years ago, I was talking to this parent and she was a parent of twins and she was telling me, oh God, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you're a single mom. Like, I don't know, all this stuff. And I didn't know if I should take it as like an accolade or if I should take it as like, are you trying to get somewhere with this? Like, what do you want me to say? And I told her, I said, well, guess what? How are you a twin mom? How do you manage twins? How do you raise twins? How do you all of that? And she was like, oh, I guess I just do it. And I said, well, just like you just do it, I just do it, right? It's all I know. And so I think that there are always going to be opportunities for us to debunk this, but we're going to start right here, right now.
Today's the day. No, but that is so real. I mean, just the whole word itself can like go through so many loopholes of scenarios and labels. Baby mama, single mom, it's always negative, whichever direction it's rooted in. And that's hard because as a single mom, it's already such a hard reality to swallow that not only do you have all this pressure and responsibilities doubled, but no one really talks about that was never in the plan. Like,
right.
I just say, and I mean, this may not be for everyone's story, but at least for mine, like, I didn't want to be a baby mom. So to hear that just made me sound like I'm not doing life right. Like, clearly I did something to get me in this situation. And it's like, it's so opposite because just for an example, like I was raised, I'm going to college. I wanted to go to college, but realistically, I did not know if I had that freedom that I thought I was going to have back then. I don't know how realistically that would have worked out for me and if I would have been as focused and motivated. But now I can say, like, I went to college with my daughter as my roommate, a whole bachelor's degree. Like, I did that. And like, if it wasn't for her in my face, routing for me But also, like you said, all we know, like, we don't have a choice at
Yeah.
that point. Once that's your life, every single decision, your child is in consideration. Like,
Right.
that's just the norm for us.
Yeah. Yeah. And can we just talk? I mean, can we talk? So, Divine and I have a lot of side conversations. If y'all have not noticed by now, Divine and I talk a lot. We talk a lot about a lot of different things. We talk about we talk about work, we talk about life. Typically, it's like, girl, you know what just happened? Girl, you know what this kid just did? You know what this kid just said? Just this week, I feel like we had conversations about the amount of gospel music that had to be playing in this car during drop off, right? Just
Yes.
so, can we just start and talk about just what it looks like, right? Because I think what I find as a single parent, it's challenging, but not knowing any different. I don't know if it will be more challenging to have a partner, right? And have to do this back and forth about decision making or about this or about that, or I don't know what it's like to be in a household where you're the default parent and the other parent is around but not really engaging as much.
Mhm.
I don't know what that looks like, right? I can't say that that's harder or less hard. But one thing that I can say is that being a single parent, me being a single mom, it often feels like you have to be all the things, right? So if your child is happy, you are the cheerleader. If your child is not happy, you are the punching bag. It
Mhm.
doesn't matter if you said, I mean, what was it this week? I remember you told me, I think you told me Dynasty had said, or you told her something about her after school program and she got mad
Mhm.
about that. And
Yeah.
I mean, I had the same experience this week, right? Where it was something so minor and I don't remember what it was, but my child was up in arms, like so
Yeah.
upset. And I'm thinking that's supposed to be a positive thing. And so
Right.
it's really like, let's just talk, let's spend a little bit of time there, just literally you take on work all day, you take on school all day, you take on world stuff all day. And then you also come home and you're having to like temperature check where your child is because you don't have that buffer and that balance, you know?
Yeah. And if I'm being honest, I think I mean, I've struggled minorly with like depression and anxiety before I was pregnant and a parent, but I think like after becoming a parent, it has intensified.
Mm,
It's especially being a single mother since
yeah.
basically Dynasty's existence. I just feel like I can't breathe.
Yeah.
Like you said, I'm working. I'm then planning, scheduling, cooking, this, like everything has to be done. And when I feel like I'm crossing 100 things out, there's 150 more things I have to add on. And it's just like, it's tiring. And so it's so hard to even sometimes be that cheerleader when we need to be the cheerleader, but we put that
Yes.
smile on and we do what we have to do. And sometimes that's hard to mask a feeling that you may want to feel, but it's so hard to
Yeah.
feel. And I struggle with that a lot because like you said, you're so many roles. It's hard to then balance yourself and be you tackling these roles because now I'm just all of the roles at once. And
Yeah.
you don't get that second to debrief if you had that more intimate support in the household where you can just, okay, let me just decide I'm not going to cook tonight. Let me ask my partner or this. Like, I don't get to do that. I have to stop what I'm doing to do this. Then I have to stop that to finish doing this, come back to this, start this, finish that, resume here. And it's never ending. It's a never ending cycle. And then Lord knows something pops up which is bound to happen.
Yep.
Like my life is always up in the air with
Yeah.
work. Like I thank God I have a job as flexible, but I could not imagine. I could not imagine being back in the 9 to 5 world, which most parents, most people are doing and still
Yeah.
having to do everything else in between. So it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah. It is hard. And I think so. We spoke recently about mom guilt, right? Like, we talked
Yeah.
about just that guilt of feeling that you want to do all things. I think that there's this perception, especially for single parents, that you have to fill in the role of the other parent. And
Yeah.
I think that single parenting in general is like this tricky term, right? Because it doesn't mean that the other parent is not present or willing, or there, right? It just means that right now in my household, the things that I'm navigating them on my own, right? And so I think I want to make that distinction too, because people experience single parenting a wide array of things. Maybe, you're co-parenting, maybe you're sharing certain times of the year, maybe your child is, maybe you're co-parenting with your parents, like Divine has shared on the website before, tips about co-parenting with your parents. And so that could look very different for a lot of different people. But one thing that I can say is that the guilt of feeling like I was very overstimulated today. I was not able to regulate my emotions today, or the thing that my child said really hurt my feelings, or the fact that I couldn't give my child this thing really hurt my feelings, right? And those things I'm sometimes not able to snap out of. And so it's a really hard thing, especially when children are young and they don't understand that. I think now with my child being a little older, I'm able to have the conversation of like, I'm feeling really overstimulated right now, or what you said to me hurt my feelings and I just need a second, or I'm a human being and I understand that you're feeling a lot of feelings and you're feeling a lot of emotions. And I understand that you need me to fill all these spots. But in this moment, the spot that I can't feel is punching bag, right? So I cannot be your punching bag in this moment. Let's talk about it later, right? And I think there's a lot of guilt around that. I think sometimes at the end of the day, like you're saying, feeling, mental health concerns. I have been there too. And just trying to go through, a newest thing that I'm processing now is grief, right? So like going through grief and going through all of these array of emotions, but also having to like keep it on for my child. And one thing that I realized though, Divine, is that like, I think that we actually will raise more well-rounded children if we don't hold it together. Like there was a point a couple years ago when it was COVID and we were home and I realized that like my child has a wall up. She didn't want to accept help. She didn't want to share her feelings, nothing. And I was like, where does that come from? Because I create this space where I'm like, let's talk about feelings and all this stuff. But she had never seen me mirror that. She had never seen me deepen my feelings. She had never seen me sharing how I felt. She had never even seen me sharing how I felt about her own actions, right? Or towards other people. And so why would she do that? Because to her, I'm her mirror, right? Like she's like, whatever mom does, we're road dogs. We just, and so, one thing I would say is like, if I could give a nugget to you, to like any other single parent, it's show those babies true emotion. Like it's okay to just burst down and cry. I did that a couple weeks ago. I just was hysterically crying and and my daughter was like, gosh, like what's happening? And I was able to share, hey, all of these things are happening. And then when this happened, it just tipped over the iceberg. And so for her, then that gives her the permission to also feel. And I think we as single parents have to give ourselves permission to really show our kids that like we're human, you know?
Yeah, I think like that's so deep. Just what you said, kind of like you're practicing grief, and it's like nobody thinks about that. Kind of like what I just said. Like you've imagined what you want things to be, what you wish things could be. So just kind of like swallowing where things are and putting that cape on, because through it all, like even though I get super stressed out, super overstimulated, like I do feel like a superhero. Like I amaze myself sometimes, like the things that I accomplished, where I'm at now, like the life I'm giving my daughter, like though I wish it could be up here, like I'm so proud of like where I am now. And sometimes that's hard too, just sitting back and accepting that, because you see all the situations around you. And then on top of all of that, of the pressures, responsibilities, there's a whole nother parent. And so like then you're faced with your back up against the wall, because not only do you have to deal with all of this, you're the default parent, but you still biologically share this child with someone.
Yeah.
So that can go into so many conversations right there alone, because it then goes to, why am I doing all of this on my own, though we're not together? Why am I having to do that? And then realizing and accepting, okay, well, I do have to do that. And then having those conversations with your child. Though I think it gets easier as they age because you can have more in-depth conversations. Um, and they also get a sense of what's going on, but they don't fully. And it's so hard to be that protector of your child because that's your job. That's what you have to
Yeah.
do. But also being the bigger person and wanting to do the right thing, but then it's like that's just another pressure of being a mom. Like, is this the right thing? Is this the
Yeah.
right decision? Am I protecting them? Like, what will this lead to? If I go this route, what will this lead to? And that's hard having those conversations with my daughter right now because she's at a point where she wants to create those connections. She wants to do that, but it's not everything that it's meant out to be. So it puts me in a rough spot and I have to tackle that into everything now.
Yeah. Yeah. Conversations are important, right? And there's this whole school of thought, I think, that people say if you have a conversation about anything, then that's you coaching the child, or that's you
Yeah.
talking negatively about another parent or another entity or the child's other family or whatever it is. And I really want us to debunk that, right? Because unless there are cameras in your home, nobody can make you feel like you've done anything wrong for your child. We're all doing the best that we can, right?
Right.
One thing that I can say is that in my household, my mom never talked negatively. I don't
Mm.
ever remember my mom talking negatively about my dad and my dad's family, nothing, right? I love them. I love them to death. Like, I love my dad's family, right? We had a tricky relationship, and that is what it is, right? But they co-parented, and she never talked negatively. The one person that I do remember talking negatively, though, was my dad's wife at the time.
Mm.
And she would talk about my mom, and she would talk about my mom to her friends and all
Mm.
of these things. And what that did to me as a child was solidify that you're not a safe person, because my mom is my safety. My mom
Mm.
is my person, right? And you're not a safe person. And so I don't want to be here. I don't care if I have to be here because it's court ordered. I don't care what it is, but I'm going to kick and scream because
Yeah.
I don't feel safe in your presence, right? And so that's one thing that we have to be mindful of. But I know also, Divine, like you and I have had these conversations about what is the right thing to share with our child, because we don't want to dismiss their feelings. We don't want to say that their feelings are not valid or just say nothing at all, right? We want to help them through it in a healthy way. And I think that there's a way to do that. And I'm learning that it's important to talk to your child about their feelings in that moment, to validate, like, I completely understand that you're feeling this way. I completely understand how that could be really upsetting. But you know what? None of this is your fault, right? Like, you are an amazing human being. And my hope and dream for you is that you have all the fruitful relationships that you want in your life. If someone does not have the capacity right now to be that for you, or if they upset you in a certain way, I will be here to support you, because I think, this has happened to me in the past where people have other people in our dynamic have said things to my child and have, told her things that are for adults. And what I told her was, instead of feeding into it and instead of, my blood is boiling, right? I'm like, why would you share that intimate part of our dynamic with a child? That's ridiculous. And now she's all dysregulated. She's emotional. She can't focus at gymnastics. She can't focus here because she feels like she needs to defend her mom and all this stuff. And what I told her was, is you don't have to defend me, right? Because I'm an adult.
Mm.
I'm a big girl. But another thing is that you did not deserve that because you're a child, and that's an adult conversation. So you have the right to block the number. You have the right to not engage. You have a right to tag me in, right? But whatever it is, like, I'm going to validate how you're feeling. I'm also going to tell you that this is not normal or okay. And I'm also going to tell you that you don't deserve that. And that's how I'm going to show up for you, because it does nothing for the child, whether it's a single mom, a single dad, it doesn't matter. The child loves that parent and wants that relationship. And so our feelings have to step out of it, right? But it's hard when you see your child hurting. And
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Yeah, not even hurting, but well, hurting, but also like not being fully aware or
Mhm.
because they're children and they're not supposed to. And like that's hard because then we have to swallow that up and
Yeah.
continue to put on our smile and parent. But I think, like you said, it's important to have those conversations. You don't have to talk negatively, but being honest as well, because one of the things that I'm at least attempting right now within these conversations with my child is what is normal and what is not normal. And
Yeah.
I try to do it not in a negatively way, but I don't want her to ever be a young lady in life thinking that she deserves less because the bare minimum was given to her. And I don't want to be in a settling position where she has to accept that because it's not fair.
Yeah.
But it's just like, ooh, take a deep
Yeah.
breath, keep going because we're surviving. Like this is now not it is a part of who we are, but it's what we have to do and what we have to go through. So it's just another day, another conversation. I always tell myself like it gets better with time. I had to I know go through custody to feel comfortable and secure being a single parent. I've
Mhm.
endured a lot of experience that led me to this point. And I share like a really intimate story on the site as well about like what led me to making that decision. But sometimes you just have to do what you have to do to protect yourself and your child because it's not fair if to see for our children to see us super reactive
Right.
and having to deal with these things because she's in my home. Now
Yeah.
I'm affecting her. And that's
Yeah.
not fair.
Yeah. Yeah. That brings up a good point of just how there's this like symbiotic relationship between parents and children. And I think that this is the case even when there are multiple parents in the household, and even no matter what, the parent relationship is. But I do think that sometimes I brace for impact. And I don't know if you experience this too, Divine, but sometimes I brace for impact because I'm almost waiting to adjust myself
Mm,
to how my child is feeling. So when she gets in the car after school, I'm like, are we smiling?
right.
Are we happy? Are we stressed? Like, what are we feeling? So I can, like, and I think we talked about this also in the mom guilt one, but just wanting to fix it,
Mm,
right? And wanting to fix whatever the thing is. And I think that that's part of what you were kind of talking about too, is like when we're having these honest conversations with our kids, at the core of who we are, we don't want them to be our therapist, right? We don't want to just vent to them. That's not the point.
mhm,
What we want is to help them understand, help them feel better or differently, help them have perspective. And that all falls under the umbrella of like, we want to fix it. And so I think we can even pivot into thinking about support system,
mm,
right? And like, what does it look like building a support system around our children? What does it look like building a support system for us? Because I think sometimes it can feel unsafe to be a single parent because of all the judgment and the stigma. So it can feel unsafe to ask for help. It can feel
mm,
unsafe to go into scenarios being fully transparent. Like I'll say going to school functions as a single individual is hard. It's intimidating sometimes. Like sometimes I go and I'm like, I don't know that I feel like I belong here because everyone's here lovingly with their partners and
yeah,
all of this stuff, and they're engaging in a different way, and I don't have that. And so if my like mom friends are not here, then I'm literally just here by myself. And that can be really
yeah,
intimidating. But I think it's important to build a village around your children. And
mhm,
so I think we should talk about that village. Like how do you build a village, and how are we rocking this out?
yeah. I mean, my support and village is very limited and small, but it's so powerful and impactful.
Yeah.
I mean, my parents have always been a huge part of my support system. My grandmother, my brother, they really step in, for times that I can't. I mean, just the other day, my grandma sending me like care packages of clothes for Dynasty, because if honestly, if she didn't and I couldn't find the time or funds to do so, nobody would. So like
Yeah.
it's just so appreciative, and it's so meaningful because I don't know what I would do without my support system. Like
Yeah.
I was like threatened to get kicked out. It didn't happen, but like what if that was my life? You know, there's so many
Yeah.
people who do get kicked out, and that's so hard because I've been in situations and different stages where I've had the support and times that I didn't have the support, times where I didn't want the support, times where I couldn't find the support. So it's just like full circle, even just being on the Yup team, being able to give support and resources
Yeah.
to the young parents out here. But it's hard, but it's like once you have it, it's so necessary. You know, your kids need it, giving them that social life and experiences and connections is really important, because I feel like even just being a young parent, I was in so much isolation. Like I literally removed myself trying to protect myself, but it causes loneliness. Then I feel like my kids are experiencing it. It makes me feel like, sheesh, I want to give her another sibling, or I mean, it can go in so many directions, but that's not my reality. So yeah, support. I don't know what I would do without them. I'm so thankful for my parents, my grandparents. Yeah, I don't know what me and Dynasty would do if it wasn't for them supporting us. And even when they don't necessarily agree with decisions I make, like they love me and they continue to be there when I need them to be.
Yeah. Same. I have a really similar experience. I remember being in college and finding out I was pregnant, and I would have just my friends would watch Lyric, like she's an infant. None of them had children, right? But I
Yeah.
would be like, I have to go to class. Can you? I have my best friend to this day. We still laugh about this. She came to school with me. We met in school, but she came to school with me and watched Lyric while I took a night class. And I didn't know where on campus she was when I got out, and I was like panicking because her phone had died, and I'm running all around. By the time I find her, I'm like in a full blown hysterical cry, and she's like, we were just playing in the classroom. And it was just so funny to me because it was like, I was so worked up as a parent, but I also, I had another friend who was in nursing school and she was working in the NICU. And I was like, surely she knows about babies. So can you watch my babies? And so trying to find, but you're so right. Like family and support system. My grandma raised my cousins. And so she would bring the two of them to my mom's house and sleep in the guest bedroom. And we would roll the bassinet into the guest bedroom from the hours of like midnight to 4 a.m. or something. Cause she wakes up at like midnight. Right. And then she would roll the baby back and then take my cousins to school. And she did that for months. And then even after Lyric got, like when I went back to school for a couple days a week, my mom would take Lyric to work with her. She's like like baby, like 1 years old, take Lyric to work with her. And then my grandma would pick her up and she'd keep her all day. And then she'd bring her back to me. And it just, or like even as she got older, right? Like my other grandparents would drive down from really far away and they would come and watch her for the day. And so support system is so important. Like we talk about it being challenging, we talk about it being hard, but a support system is not only important for your own sanity, like to help you just process and get through the day, but it's also really important to give your child other perspectives, right? Because if it's just you, they're just only adapting to your thoughts, your feelings, what you like and what you don't like, versus seeing other people and experiencing other people. And then the last thing I'll say about that, and then we can maybe segue into like the sacrifice piece, right? Is that there have been so many moments where I have family kind of all over. I live in California. So I have family kind of all over Southern California. And some of them are like an hour, 2 hours away. But they would watch Lyric in the drop of a hat. I have to go to work. I have to whatever. But that also sometimes meant, and a lot of times meant, me driving an hour and a half each way in the morning to take her somewhere. So to take her an hour and a half in traffic early in the morning, like 5 o'clock in the morning, just to take an hour and a half back to get to work on time. And then after work in rush hour traffic, driving that hour and a half to go pick her up. Because one thing about my child is it doesn't matter if I'm out at night, whatever, she gonna be by the door with her backpack on talking about my mom is coming. So mom is coming, right? And then to drive all the way back. And so that is what, 6 hours worth of driving
Mm-hmm.
in a day.
Wow.
After, on top of working an 8 hour shift, right? And there have been many days that that's been the case, but my family has always met me, right? They've always been willing to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning to accept her at the door and be up until night, right? And feed her all day and whatever, and keep me updated on how she is. And so I am so, so thankful for that. But I think we should talk about that, like talk about what that looks like,
Yeah.
childcare, what that looks like when things change at school.
Well, yes, which will tie into sacrifices, but one little small other piece of support that I think will be a good transition. Let's talk about child support.
Oh,
Cause I ain't getting none. And I have an open case. I just said that because it was funny, but that's my life. But yeah,
yeah.
I it's so hard because speaking of child support, like I did not want to go down that route for years, maybe like 5, 6 years. It took me 5, 6 years to put my child's other parent on child support. And I really didn't want to do it because I thought I wasn't going to get nothing. This person doesn't work, so you don't work. How am I going to get money? It wasn't clicking for me. And also I was afraid of like that decision causing harm or just negativity in our parenting, co-parenting, and my daughter's relationship with them, because now they're mad at me, right? Like now I'm forced to support my child, and sometimes people don't think they owe you or need to help you. So it took me a long time, 5 to 6 years, to go down that route, and I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad I did. I don't know why it took so long after I did it, because I see, and even in our discussion forums, a lot of people talk about like they don't want to do it because they're not going to get anything. Let me tell you, that money adds up.
Yeah.
You may not get it right now when you need it this week, next month, next year, but baby, when them voluntary taxes come in, I love to see it. I love to see it. I love to see it because I deserve it. I deserve it. And that's a sacrifice that I have to compromise and consider in all of my decisions. I can't go shopping all the time like I like to. I can't go out all the time. We can't eat out all the time because I have to prioritize financially everything. So I said it to say, if someone is considering putting their other partner on child support, you two parents make a child. It's not fair. It's not fair. I don't care what names you're called, bitter baby mama, have personal feelings. There's nothing personal about not supporting your child. So I get here and there little funds. If I'm being honest, it doesn't do much, but it's nice to have. It's nice to have a sit there on a rainy day if I need it. Maybe next year, maybe in 2 years, I'll get a little bit more. But like, it's there, and it's adding up. It's adding, and let me tell you, depending on what state you're in, there's consequences. There's big consequences for voluntarily not wanting to support your child. So I know sometimes that's a complicated route, like I said, feeling like that'll impact your child's relationship with them. But like I said, it's not fair. You should not have to settle and struggle in financial burdens because the lack of somebody else. So if that motivates anybody today, take it with what you will.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. I mean, that does go really hand in hand with sacrificing too. Because I think when you're a parent, not only are you sacrificing your time, like you said, you're sacrificing, maybe not going out as much or maybe not doing the things that you once did, which also is hard. But you're right, financially, things are expensive out here. Like, it's expensive to
Yeah.
live these days, and it's expensive when your kids are in sports or in activities or private school or whatever. So like Divine said, don't be afraid to go that route, right? Like, don't be afraid, because you do deserve it and your child deserves it, right?
Mhm.
Because it's child support, it's for them. And so no matter what people say, like, oh, you bought a new purse or whatever, stay out of my finances, stay out
Please.
of my pocket. You don't know where this purse came from, where this car came from, whatever. But regardless, at the end of the day, if I got a new car, guess how many miles are being spent on the child?
Right.
All of them.
Right.
So, do you get what I mean? Guess how much gas money is being spent on the child? Most of it. And so
Mhm.
don't ever worry about what the perception is about what you do with it, or whatever. Like, just know that you are taking care of your child. And even
Right.
if it is, I have taken care of my child for 10 years straight by myself, and now I've gotten this lump sum, and
Mhm.
I'm going to spend it on whatever I'm going to spend it on. Well, realistically,
Do it.
it's kind of evening out, right? And so I would just say, always don't be afraid of that, but also just realizing that with single parenting does come a lot of decision making, right? Like, you have to be mindful of eating out. You have to be mindful of what you're doing, what trips you're taking. You want to expose your child to the things that maybe their peers are exposed to, or you want to expose them to things that you were maybe exposed to, or that you wish you were exposed to. But you do have to be conscious of it. But one thing I will say, as somebody who has a child in private school, and she started private school in kindergarten, and I was 26 at the time, 25 at the time, something like that. And definitely nobody was my age at the private school,
Right.
right? But one thing that I will always say is that there's always help out there. You just have to ask. Like, if your child is in sports, I have a friend who does have a two-parent home, right? And she's 10, 12 years older than me, something like that. And so she is in a different position than me, right? But she also gets help with
Mhm.
school tuition. She
Wow.
also gets scholarships for her child. So ask for help, right? Whether it is for dance, for sports, for gymnastics, for whatever it is, most companies have built into their budget
Mhm.
scholarship opportunities. Most companies are able to write that stuff off, right? And so, as a single parent, never feel less than,
Mhm.
never feel like you have to cower, or never feel like you're going to get less of an experience because you ask for help, right? And I'll give an example for myself. I do feel really embarrassed sometimes. Like, I don't want anybody to know that, my child gets financial aid, or my kid gets a scholarship for this or for that. But one thing I will say is that when I look at the percent off that I'm getting, there's no way I'd be able to pay full price. There's no way I'd be able to pay almost $50,000 a year for school. There's zero chance that
Yeah.
that would happen, right? But she is in a school that saw value in our families, that saw value in her, that sees
Mhm.
value in me as a single parent, and gives me the help and the support that I ask for, right? And I have to be proud about that, right? I
Yeah.
have to be proud that as a 20-something-year-old mom, I had the wherewithal to be like, hey, the school's in my neighborhood, or the school's in my area, or I'm moving often because I'm young, right? And so the schools around me are not that great, or they may not be that great once I move. And so I have to get her in this school that I know that she can stay in until 12th grade if she wants to. And this school is willing to give us the assistance that we need and still love her and embrace her just like any other child, right? And there's nothing, and the same thing with her sports, right? There have been times where I have just inquired. Sometimes, like, in the fine print at the bottom of the billing email, it'll say, if you need assistance, email this. It
Mhm.
doesn't help. It doesn't hurt to email, right? And they could tell you no, but in most cases, I've gotten a lot of help with those expenses, and I'm able to put my child. And another thing I'm going to say, and I'm going to leave it at this. But another thing I'm going to say is that I've been able to put my child in a lot of spaces that she
Mhm.
would not necessarily otherwise be able to be in, because I'm not a millionaire, and I'm one person,
Mhm.
right? And I ain't getting that much when I do sometimes get it either. So,
Yeah.
you know, But one thing is for certain is that I'm never going to stop asking.
Mm.
I'm never, that's not something that I need to even discuss with my child, how much money she's getting or whatever, because she doesn't ever have to feel othered. Like, she just thinks my mom is just out here doing it, right?
Mhm.
And mom is, right? And that's all she needs to know. But reach out to your social networks. Maybe people don't have family. Maybe their families don't come from, you know, a lot, but there are so many organizations out there, or so many, again, big corporations get tax breaks to
Mhm.
help people, to give people money. It
Yeah.
doesn't come no sweat off their back. So ask.
Yeah.
ask.
Yeah, you said something about like you used to like feel embarrassed being on financial aid. Oh, I don't feel embarrassed at all. Thank you. Thank you. Like literally, I just signed Dynasty up for like 5 different after school programs, and like where I'm from, usually that stuff is free. Well, granted, I like the public schools, but that stuff is free. I just signed her up for like theater. That's $100 a month. Now, some of them won't have scholarships. That one I was
Mhm.
a little upset about. But I also then just signed her up for soccer. That was like $300. I got a
Mhm.
scholarship, and that's free. And it's funny
Yep.
because some of the scholarships they'll ask you like different questions, like would you be okay with 50%? Would you be okay with 75%? Or do you need 100? I said we will not be participating. She does not get this 100% scholarship.
Right.
And God bless us, we got accepted. She's now
Yes.
a free soccer player. But
Yes. Not a
you
free soccer player.
you have to ask for help. And it's so funny because I always ask for help. And like Dynasty now is like she's so bold too. Like we could be at the store and she'd be like, can I get one of those? I'm like, like it might be something like sitting out at somewhere.
Mhm.
She's like, Mom, just ask. They might give it to you because just go ask. I'm like,
Mhm.
go ask. So I gotta ask her now. She asks, we ask, we like free things. We like support, we like assistance.
Yep.
Because we're just girls. We're just
Yep.
girls and we need help. Okay, we
Yep.
can't do everything on our own. So yes, please do ask for help because I'm not embarrassed at all. But like that's so important about what you said as well, tapping into sacrifices because I literally just moved and in making that decision, it took me almost 6 months to a year researching. I have to research for schools. I can't
Yep.
have her in an environment that's not best for her, that's not going to allow her to thrive. So it's like now I'm in somewhere where things aren't free or maybe a little bit higher, but it's all a part of like who I want to be, who I want her to be. So sacrifices. Sometimes you have to go the harder route, pay a little bit more, but
Yeah.
you have to do what you can. And like Brandy said, there's assistance that can help you along the way. Do not think you have to settle for low, vibrant life experiences.
Mhm.
You deserve the world. And if you put your mind to it, and if that's something you want to do, experience, become, like you can do it. I'm
Yeah.
giving my daughter like the best life possible. Like we're going on vacation next month, like mid school, like just for the weekend,
Steak dinners.
just because we can. And it's
Yep.
like I used to really feel like I was missing out, and it's like, okay, just tag along because I'm not missing out no more.
Yes.
I'm not missing out no more. I had to miss out. I was 16, 17, but now I'm in a place. You know, I did the work. I'm still
Yeah.
doing the work, but I have a little freedom. So I'm not missing out. Now we're not missing out. Let's go have fun
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
sometimes that's hard to do, but you have to. Sometimes you just have to look at the brighter side of things and make the best out of it. Have fun with it. My daughter has seen my ups and downs, lefts to right, and
Yep.
she reminds me, and it is very humbling because, like you said, we create well rounded individuals. My daughter reminds me all the time, you're just a human. Or she'll use it for herself when she's not doing something right. She'll be like, I'm just a human. I'm not perfect, Mom. I'm not perfect. I'm
Uh-huh.
trying. I'll try better next time. I say, okay, okay, okay. But it's so true. And I'm so glad that I have that as a reminder as well, because sometimes that's hard for me to just be like, take a breath. We're both only human. We're both figuring this out. You don't
Yeah.
know how to navigate this just as much as I may not know how to navigate this, but we're going to figure it out together. And if you can make the best out of it, look at the positive, like just do it. It's harder to be thankful and grateful for things when you're in the midst of trauma and struggle, but there's always a way out. There's always a way out. There's always a helping hand, and like things may take long, but if you just, keep believing and keep being on the path that you need to be, like I believe and I know like things will work out for your greater good.
Yeah. And speaking about being thankful and grateful, we know that we're in the midst of holiday time. We're in the midst of the holiday season. And I think sometimes as a single parent, or sometimes as even for our children who maybe split households during this time, or maybe they don't see another side of their family during this time, it can be hard. Right. And sometimes leaning on our support system can be hard if it's not there. One thing that I can say is, and I didn't say this earlier, but one thing that I just want to highlight here is y'all have met my mom. She's incredible. She was a single mom. She's a young mom. She's incredible, right? She's shown me what love is. That is my person. She is a holiday connoisseur. She will decorate. She's the best gift giver, all the things. But she also married a man. And even though she didn't marry him until I was pregnant and an adult, she married a man that has shown me what family looks like. So this person, my daughter so graciously calls him Babe, because that's what she grew up hearing my mom say. And he came into our lives earlier, but they got married when when I was pregnant with Lyric. And so that's all she knows. And so one thing about him is he came from a single parent as well. His dad had passed away, and he was a single dad, raised his two daughters on his own. And so he has this perspective, but he shows up for my baby when it is pancake breakfast and the dads are serving breakfast at school. He shows up for my baby when it's lunchtime, and he will sit there with her and bring her Chick-fil-A or whatever. We don't eat meat anymore, but he used to bring her Chick-fil-A or just, Chipotle, whatever it is. And so during this time when it is hard, sometimes some of us don't have family. Some of us don't have, the support of another parent. Some of us may not even see our children on the holiday. We know that it's hard, right? But tapping into those people, I know that even though my child doesn't have this huge, robust, huge mega family on the holidays, she has two grandparents who show her love, who show her nothing, like she's lacking for nothing, who stand in the gap for her. And I am so incredibly grateful for them. Also, my dad's side of the family, I'm extremely grateful for them as well. But I think that having people in place that your children can look up to, having situations, even if you're not going to see your child for the holidays, if that's not in your arrangement or whatever it is, setting up special times when they maybe open gifts early or they open gifts late, or maybe y'all go. I know years ago I had to split the day of Thanksgiving. And that was hard because it was like, okay, the first part of Thanksgiving, and then she's already eaten. And so by the time I pick her up at like 4, even though it's the night and I get the rest of the night with her, it's just kind of a funky time. So what we would do is we go to the movies, and like with my parents and my siblings, and we go to the movies and we'd have like junk food for dinner, and then we'd come home and then we'd be hungry again, and then we would have whatever we cooked, right? And so we just made it this really special experience. And so just know that no matter what your circumstance is during this time, like your kids are remembering the moments that you were there for them. They're not remembering the sad times. They're not remembering having to be shuttled back and forth necessarily if it's not like a negative thing, right? They're remembering when you took them to the movies after they got home from their other parent, or they're remembering when they had a second Christmas a week later, right? Or a second Hanukkah, or a second whatever they have, right? Thanksgiving, whatever it is. They're remembering those moments. And so give yourself grace. Love yourself, love your kids, but also take care of yourself. I know we're kind of running out of time. We didn't talk about self-care, any of that stuff, but we have so much of that on the website too. Like, take care of yourself. Take yourself on a date. If you are co-parenting and you're sharing custody, take yourself on a date. Don't feel bad about it. Have that dessert that you couldn't have because you didn't want to share it when your kid was with you, right? Like, I did that last night when my kid was in gymnastics, like, take care of yourself, do the bubble bath, do the things. I know it's hard because your kids are always on your mind. You're always wondering how they are they okay? But like, take care of yourself because this is a time that can be really hard for people.
Yes, seriously, take care of yourself. I'm all about self-care. If anything is a priority, like I may overdo it with my self-care. I find a reason. But for those who don't have that family support, Yup is here for you guys. We have a virtual community, virtual celebrations. But not only that, ask for help. There are so many local organizations. We even have some things on the site that we'll be uploading soon. There's UPS Santa checklist that you can write letters and have people mail you things. There's donation boxes. Look into your local organizations. Ask around in communities that may know, because there is people willing to help. And then I know it's hard to find them, but you may have to do some digging. You may have to look. Ask your schools if they know of any organizations, daycare providers, doctors' offices,
Libraries.
Yes, there's help there for you. There's love out there for you. I know you mentioned something. I know we don't have time to talk about it, but your father-in-law stepping in for Lyric, that takes me to just having that representation, finding that somewhere else, like having my brother and my dad step in and be that manly role model for my daughter. And then it takes me to the love direction. I can't wait to have someone in the household bringing the work. So we're going to have to tune in on dating very soon, because that's a whole nother raw, real conversation of its own. So we won't have no notes. We'll throw the note cards away for that one as well, because you're gonna hear it all. But yes, ask for help, take care of yourself, and love yourself, love who you are, love who you're becoming, love your journey. And if you can look at things positively, try to, because your life is beautiful and you're worth it. Okay, you deserve the world.
Yes, you do. And we love and care about all of you. We know we don't know you, but truly at the heart of who we are, the heart of who Yup is, we love you all. We love our community. And so join the community. We're gonna keep this conversation going. There are so many beautiful things about parenting and about single parenting, and there are so many beautiful things about, all of it. And so if you take anything away from today, it is trust yourself. Know that you are what is best for your child. You are doing your best. Never feel guilty for not having or not doing. Know your worth. Know that you deserve the support. You deserve the scholarships, the financial aid, the free things. You deserve to ask the question, whatever it is. Keep asking questions. Build your community. It does not have to be family. It does not have to be, it could be friends. It could be coworkers. It could be social media, aunties and uncles. I am willing. You know how many nieces and nephews I feel like I have on social media? I am willing to be a stand-in TT to all the kids.
Brandy be protecting my daughter virtually, because I be ready. I be up here with it. I'm not gonna lie, my gentle parenting is getting there. So she be saving my life. Just that quick reminder, like, okay, catch your grip, Divine.
Leave my girl alone. That's my girl. So lean on us, ask your questions, message us, join on the website, ask questions in the community, because we're real people. And so we are attainable. We're not, we answer our messages. So we love you all. Happy holidays. And until next time.
Love you guys.
Bye.
If you enjoyed the Yup podcast, please subscribe, share, and leave a comment.
And visit youngunitedparents.org for the information, community, and resources young moms and dads need to thrive.